Welcome to another planetary allegory with astrological divination. Considering this is the month of domestic violence awareness, this video is appropriately titled The Endless Echo of the Abyss. Now, with domestic violence awareness, just remember your rights as a victim. Color of law is going to be your best friend if the police don't want to do their jobs. They open themselves up to litigation, especially when there's substantial evidence, proven pattern behavior, and historical pattern stalking. That's when you contact the district attorney, and sometimes it's as simple as that. You're going to want to challenge them on 18 USC subsections 242, and in Pennsylvania specifically, you're going to want to challenge them under 18 USC subsections 2261A. And then in Pennsylvania law, that's federal, this is state, Section 1, Section 2709 of Title 18 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes. Now, stalking becomes a federal crime in Pennsylvania when it involves interstate travel, such as crossing state lines, using the internet or phone to harass somebody in another state. Now, federal law addresses interstate stalking, while Pennsylvania law handles stalking within the state. Now, if you're being attacked by somebody that's using a VoIP, a VoIP, a VPN, a proxy, or a geofence, when you're pinging out a state or country, these felonies aren't just taking place in the state. They're going to apply to each individual state and country that are correlating with those internet pings, and the laws will apply within each individual state, and federal laws layered over those individual state laws. And if it's pinging out of the country, it's going to layer over the state and federal law and out of country states. Well, out of country laws. So it's going to be like a triple whammy if somebody's using these things for like cyber stalking and internet harassment or tampering with devices, things of that nature, which is easily proven even if somebody deletes their history. These things all leave a digital footprint, which forensics can uncover relatively easily. Now to my opening prayer. The stars decree, the covenant demands. In whispers we govern, through the elements we obscure. In static we command, in nightmares we pursue. We are earth and air, we are fire and water. We are the remembered, we are the returned. We are the whispers, in silence we thrive. I'm going to start today's video with Jupiter trine Saturn at 7th through the lens of the shadows expansion. Now, I'm doing this as a scope through psychosis and obsessive compulsory stalking and harassment in lieu of domestic violence awareness. This is actually part of domestic violence. After somebody assaults you and is removed from your home, sometimes people cyber stalk you and use the internet as a form of observation and monitoring to observe your behavior religiously at all hours of the day and the night. Now, this aspect reveals a powerful and paradoxical process in relationships. Normally, this trine brings harmonious and structured growth to partnerships. However, now remember, the trine is usually a positive aspect. I'm doing this in the perspective of the shadow view. When this is viewed through the lens of Jupiter's darker, uncontained side, it can signify that one's shadow material, being the repressed, and the unconscious elements of the psyche is unconsciously projected onto the expanded through significant relationships, particularly the partner. Now, the shadow side of this aspect is going to come through in Jupiter's expansion of the unconscious. In its shadow expression, Jupiter's expansive energy can magnify rather than illuminate. The expansion here is not of light and wisdom, but of unconscious fears, grandiose fantasies, or distorted beliefs. Often seen in people who exude verbal diarrhea of their expansive, sometimes illegal protection, prompting the righteous to take a closer look into matters with a magnifying glass. In the 7th house, this means the partner becomes the canvas for these projected shadow elements, or an accomplice or an accessory to in some perspectives, depending on where you stand in the situation. or that the relationship itself becomes a vehicle for rather unchecked growth. Now, Saturn's projection of this structure is going to come in through the 7th house, which normally provides commitment and structure to relationships. But in its shadow, this can manifest as an overbearing need for control, rigid expectations, or a fear of vulnerability. It's like if somebody commits some crimes and are all about public image and external validation, exposing said crimes would put them in a rather vulnerable position, especially if we are playing hardball rather than just meeting simple demands. Now, this trine allows this defensive structure to operate seamlessly with Jupiter's projective fantasies. This is going to create a partnership where the individual shadow is not confronted, but neatly contained and amplified, ensuring the right people truly gauge the magnitude or severity of psychological aspects, obsessive patterns, or desperation in external stimuli. This person may become obsessively fixated on their partner to maintain this structure. Now, I'm saying partner not in so much of a current tense, could be a past tense, future tense, present tense. It all relates. In severe cases, this manifests in weaponizing manipulation methods like coercion or blackmail to ensure that this structure remains. These are all felonies, by the way. Now, the unconscious contract here is going to bring in the trine being an aspect of ease. It's going to suggest that the shadow expansion happens with little internal friction. It's as if this trine is willingly participating in playing ball, not just for survival, but in hopes that the righteous pick up on a line of interception and facilitate a maneuver to level the playing field at some point to ensure justice and vindication is of an outcome at the finality of it all. Instead of a conscious battle, the individual and their partner enter into an unconscious, harmonious contract where the partner agrees on a deep level to carry and enact the individual's projected shadow. This makes confronting the issue difficult because the relationship feels stable, even as it is driven by a hidden, darker dynamic. Now, this can also come through as a nefarious agenda sometimes that crosses the borders of human rights infringements, human trafficking, and it's a dynamic that's held together by extortion and next to kin being in jeopardy alone. Now, the manifestation of the shadow's expansion, for a person with this aspect, the shadow's expansion can manifest in a few key ways. Idealization and devaluation cycles where the partner is first idealized, being Jupiter's expansion, but the unconscious projection of the individual's own flaws onto them leads to disappointment and devaluation, where we begin to degrade someone and nitpick at every little thing and then just corrode their very essence and humanity and dignity away. The grandiosity of the initial fantasy, being Jupiter's shadow, is inevitably shattered, leading to disillusionment at some point in time. That's when karma comes full circle and a ring is closed. We have obsessive scrutiny and stalking behavior. Now, the fear of losing the partner who carries the individual shadow can lead to obsessive, controlling behavior. It's like somebody that knows somebody through their mask. So we attempt to isolate them and coerce them to unalive themselves in some severe cases. This is going to be Saturn's shadow. This is going to be a subtle stalking of their every move. It's kind of like having people in a collective group of people monitoring somebody around the clock, where we're portraying them as insane but leaving out key details, where we're trying to profit off of them through their disappearance, potentially. Now, the individual may constantly scrutinize their partner for signs of perceived, and I cannot emphasize this enough, perceived infidelity or betrayal, which are actually mirrors of their own shadow fears or most likely their own personal dishonesties. Now, this is where we enter grandiose relationship fantasies. The individual may have an expansive, often very unrealistic belief about their relationship that does not align with reality. The perfect and destined nature of the relationship, kind of like thinking somebody's your designed life partner, being Jupiter, becomes a self-delusion masking a deeper emotional immaturity or fear of commitment through Saturn. This is when we develop codependency and enmeshments. Now, the seamless flow of the trine can lead to a deeply enmeshed and codependent relationship where boundaries begin to blur. Instead of confronting their own shadow, the individual lives it out through their partner, making it difficult for either to grow independently. And in narcissistic codependency, we see this manifest as smear campaigns to ensure one partner cannot succeed at all and can successfully isolate the other in attempts to control them, basically creating a human slave. Now, this would open the door to, if this person were to die or disappear, the narrative would have prevented any other singular human being from even noticing this person went missing, making it appear to be a self-unaliving or runaway situation where the truth is much more sinister. Now, the path to resolving this shadow. The resolution of the shadow's expansion does not involve breaking the trine, but consciously bringing light to its operations. And oh, what things are going to come to light if this trine isn't broken or gone, to put it nicely. But the individual must realize that the stability they project onto the relationship is a direct mirror of their own inner architecture. By integrating their shadow material rather than projecting it, they can transform the shadow's expansion into a more benevolent, conscious expression of Jupiter trine Saturn, building a truly mature and stable partnership based on reality rather than fear, granted it's even salvageable, which 99% of the time it's not going to, because the trine to 99 isn't about that shit. I got the distorted lens of the greater future of the Jupiter trine Neptune in the 9th house. Now, this aspect highlights the shadow potential of this. While typically associated with spiritual insight and idealistic expansion, the trine's ease can create a closed circuit of self-sufficiency, leading to a profound, almost invisible form of delusion. The individual experiences what feels like divine guidance and boundless faith, but this fortune is seen through a distorted lens of ego and ungrounded fantasy, meaning it was a facade to mislead intentionally by the devil himself. It's like signing a blood contract with a demonic entity, thinking that demonic entity isn't about to come cash that check, whether you like it or not. Now, the shadow aspect here is going to be Jupiter and Neptune as the illusion. The 9th house is where Jupiter is going to feel at home. Neptune is going to be the planet of dreams and illusion, dissolving boundaries here. Like a chemical reaction, it's going to dissolve alchemically. In the shadow of a trine, Jupiter's natural tendency towards excess magnifies Neptune's deceptive potential, leading to an unshakable, grandiose spiritual delusion where we think we are uncrowned leaders or self-proclaimed heirs when we in fact are the furthest thing but. Leading some to believe they are in fact above God and that they realistically could be lower than ants on the spiritual hierarchy of power and influence. Now, this individual is going to become convinced of their infallible wisdom or spiritual insight, often without the grounding of lived experience or critical inquiry or a near death, if not full death, then resurrected experience. In the 9th house of beliefs, though, the 9th house is going to be the very foundation of one's worldwide view. With the Jupiter and Neptune operating here in the shadow, the individual's spiritual philosophy can become a fortress of self-reinforcing beliefs. The fortress is going to be so secure and feel so right that external criticism or contradictory evidence is going to be simply dismissed. It's like seeing the sky is blue, knowing the sky is blue, but we're mentally delusional and we're going to argue that it's like lime green, just for shits and giggles. This is the fertile ground for spiritual bypassing, where a positive sounding belief system is used to avoid facing deeper psychological wounds. Now, the trine's convenience of ease, the effortless flow of this trine is going to bring in a major pitfall. There's going to be no friction or obvious struggle to force the individual to question their own beliefs. But unlike with a square opposition, the delusion is not born of conflict, but of convenience. Often to avoid accountability for one's crimes, divine order violations, or to deflect altogether, it is easy to confuse spiritual bypassing with genuine serenity and expansion. Now, the individual's life may appear blessed on the surface, but this mask of lack of true spiritual depth and a disconnection from reality. This is where the distorted lens is going to manifest in several different ways. Now, for a person with a shadow aspect, a distorted lens is going to manifest through gullibility and false prophets. The individual's innate desire for higher knowledge, being Jupiter in the ninth, is coupled with a trusting, boundaryless nature, which is Neptune. This can make them extremely susceptible to charismatic but manipulative figures or false gurus who exploit their hopes and idealisms. These people can come through as fake pastors, priests, psychics, fake sorcerers, sorceresses, fake witches, fake warlocks, if you will, leading to spiritual fanaticism. Now, the harmonious blend of Jupiter, morale is going to favor, and Neptune's idealistic zeal can morph into fanaticism. The individual may become so absorbed in their belief system that they lose touch with compassion and reality, viewing anyone outside their spiritual framework with contempt or pity. This is going to give delusional optimism. Now, a lot of cults operate like this, and wannabe secret societies, we can call them, a few people with a few dollars and a bunch of morons who all do drugs and get high and fuck each other. That's fugazi. That ain't real operation in the spirit realm. That's textbook operations, not naturally gifted. Now, with delusional optimism, there's an unshakable and often baseless optimism that everything is going to work out because I got this network. You can't touch this, right? MC Hammer. Look what happened to him. He's broke as shit right now. Now, the individual may ignore crucial details, practical considerations, or red flags, believing that their faith alone is going to assure a positive outcome. This is what happens when we step into an energy that overwhelms our systems because we aren't naturally wired to truly embody the emperor or empress. Now, this is especially true in areas related to travel, higher education, or publishing, which are ruled by the ninth house, not to be confused with escorting and traveling and learning from people who you're just getting a quick buck from. It's going to often be seen with the fickle-minded who command the law and lawless only to roll over on their own circle at some point out of fear of being exposed or getting caught up in a RICO or some kind of federal case. Now, the closed circuit here of self-sufficiency is going to be an evolutionary astrological trait where the trine is going to create a closed energy loop where the person doesn't need external feedback to feel complete. The individual becomes so convinced of their own wisdom that they stop growing, mistaking their own fantasies for genuine spiritual insight, leading to a cataclysmic, often catastrophic and explosive self-sabotaging, which usually ends in a profound public display of a fall from grace. Now, correcting the path. Resolving the distorted lens requires a conscious effort to challenge the ease of the trine. The individual must deliberately seek out friction and expose their beliefs to external critical feedback. This can involve grounding practices that connect them with the tangible world and counteract Neptune's tendency towards escapism. Actively seeking out and opposing viewpoints and forcing themselves to engage with them. Now, my personal favorite in this is going to be intellectual sparring. I value other people's perspectives. Whether I agree with them or not isn't up to me to debate. I appreciate the axis to rotate on to have a different view of the world, but I still maintain my own beliefs because it's not a mask. Now, embracing the discomfort of doubt and uncertainty, rather than retreating into the comfort of their established worldview, we're going to embrace what we don't understand, accept, or know. By doing this difficult work, you're going to learn to distinguish genuine spiritual intuition from inflated fantasy, eventually transforming the distorted lens into a truly clear and expansive window to the divine, probably through death, because when spirit talks, spirit walks. And when spirit's walking, because you ignored the talking, couldn't be me. With the Jupiter trine North Node in the 11th, we've got the fixed star of delusion. With this configuration, typically it indicates an effortless path towards destiny through social networks and high ideals. Its shadow suggests that one's purpose, being the North Node, and social expansion, being Jupiter, become fixated on a powerful but ultimately illusory idea or group, we'll call them. Now, the paradox, the fixed star. The imagery of a fixed star represents a powerful, unwavering idea or ideal that guides the individual or individuals. In its positive expression, this is a spiritual beacon. You exude the light when you are the beacon of light. You can't just pretend. The aura don't lie. Now, in its shadow, though, however, which is also obvious at some point when the illusions are removed, it becomes a powerful delusion. The individual becomes so convinced of their special place within a group or their unique contribution to humanity that they become blind to reality. This is not a malicious deception, but a self-sustaining illusion, like leading a sacrifice for the better of a group for a position or a rank. In the delusion, we are helping the group. In reality, we're conspiring to commit murder in the name of a religious agenda. The ease of the trine here is going to be a critical component of this delusion. Because the path feels so effortless and divinely guided, there is little friction to challenge the individual's inflated sense of purpose. This is people that have power that shouldn't have power, that get lost in their own delusions and attack innocent people who they think have nobody or nothing, not understanding their ramifications that come from trying it. Now, cults, again, often operate on an axis to maintain control of unsuspecting victims to do their bidding in the name of their worldviews or their agendas. They'll find idiots that they can manipulate and control to go do stupid shit for a quick buck just to test the hypothesis and notate the outcome. FAFO in a nice way. Now, unlike the hard aspects where struggle forces self-reflection, the harmonious flow is going to allow the delusions to expand unchecked and unchallenged. It's kind of like letting somebody run into a brick wall at 1,000 miles an hour. They're just going to hit that shit and back up and continuously hit that wall, and they're not ever going to get through that wall. They're just going to keep beating into that wall. Now, Jupiter's role in the expansion and exaggeration here is to expand. And the 11th house this naturally expands one's social circles and aspirations. However, in the shadow, this can become an excessive idealism and an over-reliance on social validation. Look at me. I'm kidding, don't look at me. I don't give a fuck about your opinion. I like me. Now, an individual's ego is going to inflate with a group setting, and they confuse the group's collective vision for their own infallible destiny. This is where the North Node comes in to play a role for karmic purpose. The North Node points to the soul's karmic purpose and evolutionary path. When entangled in this illusion, the individual believes their destiny is so intrinsically linked to a particular group, ideology, or social media following, like a cult. Their true purpose, however, is being hijacked by a fixated and often distorted vision of what should be, rather than what truly is. They mistake popularity or shared ideals for genuine spiritual growth. Spiritual growth typically happens in isolation, and isolating somebody can have profound effects on their connection alone. Now, the strength in physical numbers is going to be a wild exaggeration when compared to walking alone with the divine. I would rather walk alone with the nameless in static than loud in public with a group. The manifestations of this are going to come through in several ways, idealizing friendships and groups. Now, the individual projects an unshakable grand vision onto their social circle or organization. They may ignore red flags or flaws of the group, believing it to be a perfect reflection of their very own destiny. We're going to have the guru complex within a group coming in. This person's going to attract followers or take on an inflated leadership flow role within a group where they are seen as a source of divine truth. They may become a false guru, leading others down a path of delusion simply because they have a powerful belief system that others buy into. It's kind of like being a charming person where everybody likes you or you need everybody to like you because external validation is ideal. That's not spiritual at all. That's a mask. And that's fugazi. Now, this could also come through as the echo chamber of destiny. The individual may surround themselves with like-minded people who constantly validate their beliefs. Groupthink. This creates an echo chamber that prevents them from gaining perspective. This is why I myself am very selective with who I will surround myself with now. I only want to be with people who can share my views and we can mutually respect each other's perspectives. But if it comes down to energy work in a group setting, we can dominate and move mountains if need be. Now, the faded moments here of alignment they experience are going to be simply positive feedback loops of this group validation, which they often mistake for divine confirmation. It's just kind of like a rat running in a wheel. It's just going to turn until it runs out of energy. Then it's going to perpetually spiral with that wheel without even moving, and it's not even going to realize it's going to get off that wheel and call it a day and get back 5 minutes later thinking everything's all calm, cool, and copacetic. This is where blind ambition is going to step in. The individual's aspirations, as the 11th house, can become ungrounded in reality due to Jupiter's influence. They may pursue a grandiose goal that they believe is their destiny, being the North Node, but is actually a manifestation of their inflated ego, leading to an eventual disappointment. Now, resolving the fixed star delusion is going to require a conscious effort to challenge the comfort and the ease of this trine. This is where we seek diverse perspectives. The individual must deliberately engage with people outside their established social and ideological circle to gain a more balanced view. We're going to embrace humility to learn to distinguish between genuine purpose and grandiose fantasy. This involves detachment from the need for group validation and allowing the fixed belief systems to be questioned. Questions are a good thing. I ask a lot of questions. I'm annoying as shit. I'm aware of that, though. We can focus on individual growth rather than collective growth, and when we grow as a self, then we can enter the scene and we can grow as a team. The journey of the North Node is going to ultimately be a personal one. The individual must redirect their focus inward, developing an authentic sense of self that is not dependent on a group's approval or of a grand external mission. We have the obsessive wheel of the sky in Jupiter trine Lilith in the 12th. Now, this is going to point to the shadow potential of this aspect where mystical perception and deep hidden desires merge into a cycle of delusion and fixation. Normally, the trine offers an effortless path to inner wisdom and spiritual growth. However, in the shadows, this aspect facilitates an endless cycle of unconscious desires, being Lilith, fueled by exaggerated spiritual fantasies, being Jupiter, in the realm of the subconscious, which is the 12th house. Now, the shadow side of this aspect, Jupiter's role in excess and delusion typically brings, while Jupiter typically brings good fortune and expansion, in the 12th house, its expansive energy can magnify what's hidden. When negatively aspect, this can lead to grand spiritual delusions, a bloated ego disguised as enlightenment, or a uncritical acceptance of mystical concepts. In the context of a trine to Lilith, this means that the subconscious, untamed aspects of the self are given an expansive spiritual justification. Lilith's untamed obsession in the 12th house is going to represent primal energies, desires, shame, often operating entirely in the subconscious realm. Now, in the shadow, Lilith is the source of intense, unacknowledged longings and hidden rebellions. These are going to be autonomous functions of the brain because the way we are going to experience and observe these stimuli from a psychological aspect is going to be relatively different when it's autonomous rather than manual or fake. So in the context of space and the time continuum, ongoing in a forward momentum, whereas one side is blind to the remainder of the galaxy and the celestial bodies, the opposition might be a satellite to this blind celestial being, if you know what I mean. Now, when this trine is present, instead of being challenged and brought to the light, these primal urges are simply amplified and fed by Jupiterian energies. This is going to create an obsession that is rationalized as being a spiritual or fated path. Oh, my love. The 12th house is a hidden cycle. When both Jupiter and Lilith are present, the easy flow of the trine can cause the individual to remain perpetually unconscious of this hidden loop. Now, the obsessive wheel in the sky refers to an internal self-perpetuating cycle of a person being driven by hidden desires and spiritual delusions without any external friction to force them towards self-awareness. For a person with this aspect, this can manifest in several ways. Secret addictions. Jupiter in the 12th house can increase the scale of any hidden issue, including addictive tendencies, whether it be drugs, sex, following somebody for a few bucks a week, being bored with no life, following people in their car, following people home, following people at their job, like a fake private investigator, but without the fancy title and occupation. Now, the East trine to Lilith, which represents our untamed nature, can feel an obsession with a substance, a person, or a fantasy that provides an escape from reality. This obsession becomes a spiritual quest in the individual's mind, a higher calling that justifies their destructive behavior. Now, stalking as a mystical ideal, the individual may become obsessed with a spiritual teacher, an esoteric concept, or a past life fantasy, or the thought of fame and fortune if we sacrifice the lamb. Except, in this context, this isn't a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is a dragon in a lion's clothing, hidden as a wolf inside of a sheep that was dormant and sleeping until recently. Now, this is not a healthy curiosity by any sense of the matter. This is mentally unstable and unhealthy. It's a form of spiritual stalking and a relentless, unconscious pursuit of an ideal that is rooted in personal desire rather than genuine truth. The trine's effortless energy makes this pursuit feel faded and natural, blinding the individual to its obsessive nature. Oh my God! Grandiose spiritual fantasies. The person may retreat into a fantasy world where they are a divine being. Ooh la la. A savior or the focus of a mystical importance. The grandiose self-image is fueled by Jupiter's expansion and Lilith's hidden desire for power and recognition. Real power is silent. In silence we thrive. This obsessive fantasy serves as an ego defense, protecting the individual from facing their deeper wounds or the mundane reality of their life. It's like offending somebody because your baseline is a constant reminder of their normalized mediocrity. You got codependent enmeshment again. The ease of this trine is going to manifest in an unconscious codependency with a romantic partner, current or former, a spiritual teacher, or a therapist. Or somebody with power like a cop or an investigator. I wouldn't recommend that for either party, especially the one with the title, because litigation is ugly. Now, the individual becomes so enmeshed in the other person's energy that they lose their own sense of self. Lilith's repressed desires for intimacy and power projected onto the other person and then fed by Jupiter's expansive energy, creating an obsessive and ultimately unfulfilling cycle. It's like a black hole. It's never enough. No matter how much you put in there, it's never enough. Fucking right. Breaking the cycle of the obsession. To resolve the shadow potential, the individual must intentionally create friction and discomfort to disrupt the obsessive wheel. This can involve radical self-honesty, facing the true nature of the hidden fears, desires, and wounds rather than cloaking them in a spiritual language. Grounding practices. Grounding works. Do it. Engaging in tangible physical activities that anchor them to reality and counter to 12th house tendency towards escapism. Don't watch people online. It's weird. Get a hobby. Conscious boundary settings. Learning to establish healthy emotional and psychic boundaries with others and within themselves rather than allowing their energy to be endlessly consumed by unconscious patterns. We must identify these through pattern recognition and pattern behavior and patterns that exist in our everyday routines. Once we identify these patterns, we can weaponize counterintelligence measures to play the role while obtaining an intelligence and plain stupid. We got the Jupiter square Chiron as the uncontained urge of the greater benevolence. This is going to highlight a paradoxical and deeply frustrating struggle. Jupiter, the planet of benevolence and expansion, comes into conflict with the square. With Chiron, the archetype of the deepest wound. This is going to create a relentless inner drive to heal or offer benevolence in the area of one's own core wound, but the urge is uncontained, meaning it is misdirected, excessive, or ineffective. Now the paradox. The benevolent wound is going to have the individual feeling a powerful, almost fated urge to teach, heal, or offer wisdom through Jupiter, or steal somebody's path to do one of the above, in the exact area of life where they themselves are most wounded and feel most inadequate. Chiron, this is where people project. Now, the benevolence they feel is genuine, but it arises from a place of profound pain, not from a place of wholeness. The uncontained urge is going to be the square, which is going to create a difficult, tense friction. Now, the Jupiterian impulse to go big or find a grand philosophical solution is at odds here with the deeply sensitive and unhealed nature of the Chiron wound. This often leads to an uncontained urge, an excessive, almost manic drive to teach or heal that overcompensates for the individual's own feelings of inadequacy. This can manifest as preaching, proselytizing, or overstepping boundaries in a misguided attempt to help. Now, the shadow of the teacher. The person with this aspect may struggle with the guru complex in its shadow form. They may attract followers or people who need healing, but they do so from a place of projection rather than true wisdom. Their teachings may be filled with ground philosophical ideals, being Jupiter, but they are ultimately derived from an unintegrated personal pain, being Chiron. This can result in them being a hurtful mentor or hurtful teacher to others, and experiencing a rude awakening at some point to their mortal limits when their own flaws are revealed, especially when testing boundaries of those who embody an immortal, infinite link to the divine. Mustn't destroy the bridge. Manifestations of this square are going to manifest in several ways. Overcompensating for pain. A person who is deeply wounded by the feeling of unworthy of love, being Chiron, may go to extreme lengths to generously shower others with love, Jupiter. However, this generosity can feel uncontained and overwhelming to others, and it comes from a deep-seated need to heal their own wound by proxy rather than from a place of true spiritual balance. We've got dogmatic beliefs, like people in cults, people in religious groups, people doing crazy wild shit, labeling others as satanic to try to unalive them or off them in hopes of some obscure, abstract reward. The individual here is going to hold fast to their principles and beliefs, but in a rigid and self-righteous way as a defense against their pain. The square creates a tension where they may find it difficult to bring their life philosophy in alignment with their psychological sore points. This can lead to a fundamentalist-like approach, where their belief systems is used to judge others or as a shield to avoid their own vulnerability. The wound here is going to be magnified. The Jupiterian expansion magnifies the Chironian wound. Instead of just having a personal wound, the individual may feel they are a carrier of the collective pain of a people or culture. This can lead to a messianic complex where they feel it is their grand mission, which is Jupiter, to heal this wound even if they have not yet integrated their own. Then comes the teacher who cannot heal themselves. Like the mythological centaur, Chiron, who could heal others but not himself. The individual may find their ability to help and teach others is profound, but their own healing journey feels stalled or painfully slow. The frustration from the square aspect comes from the disconnect between the boundless desires to help and their persistent inner ache. Now, the path to integrating this urge, the path to healing this aspect involves consciously containing and redirecting the expansive energies. It's like breathing and exhaling. Acknowledging the wound, the individual must first recognize the benevolence as an uncontained urge stemming from their core wound, not from a place of selfless giving. This is where we integrate the pain. Instead of projecting the urge to heal outward, they must turn inward, using the philosophical curiosity through Jupiter to explore the full depths of their pain in Chiron. Now, when we embrace humility, the individual must learn to embrace humility and let go of the egoic need to be the guru or the all-knowing teacher. True wisdom is gained through accepting their own limits, not through grand, uncontained displays of healing. I have Jupiter in Pisces as a finality here. This is going to explore the darkest, most distorted shadow expressions of this placement. While traditionally associated with the expansive compassion, spiritual healing, and deep idealism, these qualities can be corrupted into a grandiose, delusional, and boundaryless fixation. Now, the shadow of Jupiter in Pisces, tying in the narrative of above into this placement, the uncontained urge of this benevolence. Jupiter's need for expansion and beliefs are going to merge with Pisces' boundary-dissolving nature. Instead of healthy compassion, this can become a compulsive, uncontained need to help or save someone or just monitoring them. Weird. The expansive impulse of Jupiter magnifies the target's pain, creating an obsessive drive to fix it, regardless of this person consenting or not. Remember, coercion and compliance is not consent. The distorted lens of fortune leads a person with this placement to become convinced that their obsessive pursuit is fated or divine. It is not. The usual optimism of Jupiter is warped into a grand self-serving delusion that they are a mystical savior designed to be with their target. The target's rejection is ignored or twisted into a sign of testing, further fueling the delusion that they are desired by their target or valued in any sense at all. Not the case. Now, the obsessive wheel of the sky. The Pisces energy, particularly in the 12th house, which it rules, can lead to cycles of escapism or fantasy. When colored by Jupiter's excess, this becomes an endless, self-reinforcing fantasy that traps the individual in a delusional narrative. The stalking or obsession is a physical manifestation of their inner wheel, if you will, or a desperate attempt to make the fantasy real. The fixed star of delusion, the Pisces imagination, is potent here with this one. With Jupiter's expansion, this can lead to an unshakable fixed belief that has no basis in reality at all. The stalker projects an idealized version of the target, and this fixed star becomes their guiding, all-consuming purpose. Now, how this obsession manifests. Idealization and blurry boundaries. The obsessive individual projects a soulmate or savior fantasy onto their target, or a cash cow view to make them a quick lick come up of profit, however necessary by any means needed, legal or not. Boundaries are not simply ignored here. They are believed to be non-existent or divinely ordained to be overcome. It's like when somebody extends themselves to your finances or your belongings because they view them as their own and they are entitled to your things when they in fact have no entitlement whatsoever. It's like when somebody steals a house or money from somebody or does some illegal bullshit, it doesn't belong to them, and it's not up to them to decide who it goes to or who it belongs to. It is whose it belongs to originally. Now, the perpetrator may use spiritual or empathetic language to rationalize their violations, or they simply isolate the individual to strong-arm them to create a pseudo-ownership and sometimes solidify their false human slave ideal with fraudulent documents or fabricated conservatorships which were never legal or authentic. We've got psychic projections and delusions. The empathetic and intuitive nature of the Pisces can be distorted in many cases. Instead of feeling for their target, the person projects their own unfulfilled desires and fantasies onto them. They may develop a grandiose sense of being psychically connected, believing they can read the target's mind or receive divine messages confirming their obsession. This leads to shadow's expansion. The obsessive behavior is a direct expansion of the individual's own unconscious, unintegrated shadow. The target becomes a physical mirror for the internal pain, and the compulsive pursuit is a misguided attempt to heal that internal wound by controlling or possessing the other person, leading to escapism and self-justification. The spiral into psychosis is fueled by escapism here. Instead of facing reality and their own flaws, the person retreats into a grandiose spiritual justification offered by a Jupiter Pisces shadow. They may convince themselves that their actions are compassionate, divinely guided, or necessary for the target's own good. But truly, this is just a wild exaggeration of one's imagination that to justify the narcissism and psychological operation used to isolate for control, i.e. psyops. Now, the path to healing here, resolving this extreme shadow expression requires a radical breakdown of the inflated ego and delusion. The individual must consciously ground Engage in tangible physical activities to counteract the urge to escape into fantasy. This is where we develop humility. Confront the possibility that the benevolence is actually a destruction and self-serving delusion. We must face the shadow. Stop projecting their unfulfilled desires onto others and engage in deep psychological work to integrate their shadow material. This is where we respect people's boundaries. This is where we're going to learn to recognize and respect boundaries as essential to health and well-being, both for themselves and for others. That's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you found it interesting. I'll see you in the next video.